Uneducated Economist here. Let me turn some lights on for you. Oh, come on. Is it going to work? There we go. All right. Well, let's jump right into it. How many we got here? Two of you. All right. Thanks for hitting that like button when you came in. I really appreciate that. So, I want to get started in thinking about or talking about wealth and what it is to be wealthy. I always kind of thought, and I've done a video on this before because Cantillon addressed this exact topic, like, what is wealth? And I always thought that wealth was like, somebody who, like, if you looked at somebody who had wealth, they would be driving like a big new car, wearing nice clothes, taking lots of vacations, living in a big house, having some like high status job or something like that. And I always took this as kind of being wealthy. Like if you had this sort of like presence about yourself, then that was wealth. Like that showed your wealth. And I always kind of had this perception when I was growing up that somebody who was driving like a Mercedes Benz or wearing nice clothes or just even appearing like, classy or something like those people were more wealthy. And it took me a long time to kind of understand, like, what is it to be wealthy? Like, what is wealth? And really, when I read Cantillon's essay and he described wealth, that it really kind of solidified it all for me. Like it really kind of sealed the deal as what is wealth. Because Cantillon describes wealth as food, conveniences, and pleasures of life. That's it. Pretty simple. Like that's really all there is to wealth: food, conveniences, and pleasures of life. And so I have to think, like, what is it that makes me wealthy or the people next to me wealthy? I mean, I like to think that I eat pretty decent food. I eat healthy. My wife, she works at she works for a co-op grocery. So we, generally have pretty decent food at the house. And so food is not really like an issue for me. Like I understand there was a time in my life where food was like it was, I didn't make a lot of money. I was broke all the time, and like buying food was really expensive and difficult. But I lived on a hobby farm, right? I mean, I had a little hobby farm going, so I could produce a lot of food off my property, and what I didn't have, I could trade for. And so like being provided food when I was completely broke, it wasn't a big deal. Like I had food. I've always been able to somehow either grow food, acquire food, hunt for food, or just straight up buy food. Food has never really been like something that is like out of my grasp, right? I mean, it's just like there was some place that I could find that would give me that I could eat, or at least get some sort of food. So it wasn't like a lack of food that's really out there. Like most people, even like homeless, have like an EBT card or something. And I'm not saying that people don't go hungry, but really food is pretty abundant in this country. So most people don't really lack food too much. So most people are wealthy in food. And then conveniences. Well, what's conveniences? Like, I drive this old $500 car. It's the same as if I drove a $50,000 car. It still does the exact same thing. It's still the same convenience. One of them is a little bit, fancier and maybe more comfortable or something like that, but the end result is the same. The convenience is not any change. So having a $500 car or a $50,000 car really doesn't change the wealth of it, right? I mean, the convenience part of the wealth, it's still the same convenience. It's just one is a little nicer or more comfortable or something like that. And then pleasures of life. Like, what is it that's really pleasurable that costs money? I mean, like most of the good things in life are really free, right? I mean, enjoying the atmosphere, right? It doesn't matter if you're paying for it or not, just so long as you're enjoying that particular moment. And that's really what's important. That's what makes it pleasurable. I mean, you could be spending a lot of money on something or have the money for it and still not be enjoying it. I mean, that's not pleasurable, right? It's pleasure. Like, what is it that's making you happy? I mean, a walk along the river could be pleasure, right? It doesn't cost anything. So food, conveniences, and pleasures of life, that's the wealth. And does it really require like an overabundance of money to be wealthy? See, this is what really trips me out when I read this article talking about how 12% of Americans and 29% of millionaires don't feel like they're wealthy. And I'm thinking, man, I felt wealthy when I had no money, right? Living on that little hobby farm. So really, is wealth like an actual material possession or money, bank account, investments, assets, or is wealth a state of mind? Right? Because that's really where I think it comes down to. It's more of your perception of what wealth is. You know, your conveniences, the food that you eat, and the things that you find pleasurable in life. And most of that stuff can be found without a whole lot of money. Anyway, what are you guys talking about? All right, let's go up here. He's live. Good evening, UE. Well, good evening. What is that? Pariah 1134. All right, good evening from Lakeland, Florida. All right, the Health and Wealth Podcast. Hey, right on. Great to see you here. Kansas City represent. All right, Lee from the Fix It Man. Howdy, how you doing, brother? All-nighter up in the house as usual. All-nighter doesn't miss anybody anywhere ever. He's like the all-star of viewers. All right, I'm here. We can start now. Absolutely, we can start now. All right, North Side Chicago. All right, calling 10 on the dice, calling 7 on the dice now. All right. Health, wealth, and wise. Simon is hustling hard right now. Thanks, Joss. All right. Come on, 56 watching. Only 3 likes. Now, we got 33 likes now. Okay. Let's see here. Would you not sell that $500? So, let's see. You would not sell that for $500, so just stop. No, but you know what is interesting is that somebody told me about a $500 car up on the hill here on Astoria. I was thinking about going and finding it because, well, when you drive a $500 car, you kind of need a backup. And I do have the S10, but, you know, I mean, I just replaced the alternator in it, but we never know what's going to go wrong with one of these vehicles. And $500 for a running vehicle generally is cheaper than most repairs you have to do on a vehicle, unless it's like the alternator or something like that. So yeah, I'm totally eyeballing, well, not eyeballing it because I don't know where it is, but thinking about that idea about getting that other $500 car and just parking it out in the barn. Oh, excuse me. All right, we just traded a WNBA player for a criminal arms dealer. What? I'm sorry, I don't pay attention to politics. Are you guys talking about that Russian issue, that prisoner up in Russia? I don't pay attention to that stuff, so I don't, you know. Quick draw tonight. All right. Missing the man's home, wife and family replaced with rents and single mothers. It's a nope. Huh. Grinner is responsible for the end of mankind. Grinner, see what we... I don't know what this is. Okay. The Merchant of Economics. All right. She don't even stand for the anthem. Let's see here. Okay, you can be dead broke and your children can make you feel wealthy. Yep, sorry to all those that wanted to find virtual dating girls. Well, thank you all night for taking care of the riffraff coming in here. I appreciate that. And Josh, she should be embarrassed. She put the country in that position and we had to make that trade for her. Hopefully the TCH habits, the THC habits, okay, were worth the potential threat to the people now that an arms dealer is free. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I wish I could give you an opinion on that stuff, but when I found that it was end up being pushed into a political, I don't pay attention to that stuff anyway. I just rather study the flow of money, monetary policy, stuff like that. All right, decided to catch you live. You're the great man. Well, thank you very much, Marcus. I'm glad you're here. I grew up and poor and was depressed and anxious all my life. Poor people shouldn't have kids. Wow, man, that's actually, there's a lot of truth said in there. Hollywood Hitch, thank you for the comment. Yeah, and that's really what ends up happening is that most people end up when they're that poor and, you know, because you end up like, you know, it's not the parents' fault, you know, that if they're poor. I mean, obviously, you know, everybody can't, you know, just make tons of money or something like that. I mean, everybody can, it's just not everybody knows how to. And, you know, until like, you know, I mean, until just a few years ago, I was dead ass broke. And, you know, my oldest boy is 15 years old. So he definitely remembers the times when we were at our worst as far as not having money. Freddie, you know, the younger one, he doesn't quite get it as much. I mean, he was still pretty young when we were like, fairly broke. And unfortunately, like my wife, she grew up very poor. And I mean, I grew up all right. Like my dad was in the military, so we had pretty much, we did okay myself as growing up. But you can definitely see like there's a survival mindset that my wife has when it comes to like even things that she wants in life. It's just like some of the times like she was always told no, that she could never have anything, that she just kind of learned to just not want anything. And so now, like, in order to even want something, you have to like give yourself permission that it's okay, because you've been stuck in the survival mode your whole life. And that's a poor mindset. That's something that is like almost a mental issue that needs to be overcome. Like, and it happens from people who spend their entire lives stuck in that like survival mode of being poor all the time and not knowing what it is that you're going to do to get out of it. And so like you just sacrifice everything that was ever going to be like pleasurable so that you can have enough toilet paper. I mean, it sucks, being that poor, but it's also like an understanding of knowing your situation and not feeling hopeless. Like that's the whole point of it all. I mean, even when I had the hobby farm, I mean, I had plenty to do. So there was plenty of animals to take care of and there was plenty of things to tend to and stuff like that. And it wasn't like we were hungry. So if you're not hungry, then you're not that upset about it. I mean, you're really upset if you're hungry. So, but if you have plenty to eat, then, and you got good people to hang around with, and pretty much everything else can be dealt with. But, anyway, moving on. Somebody sent me a super chat. Yeah, there it is. Cool. Thank you, JB, for the $6.99. Will the S&P goes sub 3,000 in Q1 2023? Love your channel. It's hard for me to make a prediction, especially when it comes to the markets like that. I mean, I really just don't know about like stock prices and the direction that they're going to go and stuff like that. Like, I'm not a good investor. Like, I'll just straight up admit it. I don't invest very well. I'm an economist. Like, that's what I go towards. Investors and economists are not exactly the same thing. And I don't think economists actually make very good investors, because really the economist is really looking at the conditions that we are sitting in right now, trying to predict what these conditions will be as far as like the cause and effects going into the future. And we're constantly looking for little changes to that scenario. So if you're an investor and you put some investment towards something and you're like, man, I'm rock solid into this idea, and you're like me and you're like, well, what about these changes that are now like these new informations and these ideas and stuff like that? This totally changes what I'm thinking. Well, the investor is locked in. They're like, no, I'm going for it. I'm putting my money in and I'm going for this thing. Where the economist is much more of like a free floating kind of thought. And so like the two of them, I don't think do a very good job of crossing over, even though we use the same information. I mean, we're all like looking at the exact same thing to try and come up with these ideas. But I really do think that an economist and an investor are not the same thing. They're not doing the same thoughts, another thing, like, I don't know how many of you guys ever heard of Tony Robbins, but he had this, I was listening to one of his motivational things, and he was talking to the crowd, and he tried to get the crowd to understand that you will find whatever it is that you're looking for. And so what he told the crowd to do was look out there in the crowd and count everything that you could find that was the color brown, right? And so he told the crowd, look for brown, look for brown, look for brown, right? And he was just like, okay, remember how many things that you found that are brown. Now look for red. Look for all the things that you can find that are red, right? And so he asked the crowd, how many people found way more red than they found brown? Of course, everybody raised their hand. And he was just like, now, let me ask you guys, how many people counted this lady's shirt up here, this burgundy shirt, as red? And everybody kind of raised their hand. It was just like, because it's not red, it's burgundy, but you, in your mind, in your ideas, looking for red, made that shirt red, right? You see what happens here? Now investors, at least this is what happened to me, is that I would invest towards something and then I would look for all the information that confirmed my investment, that would say, yes, this is the right investment to do. And instead, I should have been looking for all the information that said, no, this is the wrong investment to do. And if I could find that, then it would make me, give me the decisions on whether or not I should invest into it. Because if I could not find the information that told me don't invest in this, then it would be more of a reason why you should go into it, not all the reasons why you should invest, right? Does that kind of make sense? I don't know, but that's not investment advice because I'm not a good investor. All right, moving on. Did I see another super chat come in? Yeah, right there. Hey, thank you, Juan T or Juan One. Sorry, Juan One for the $9.99. Really appreciate that, man. Very nice of you. Okay. Let's see. Can always buy back your time. Laugh out loud. The ultimate wealth is doing nothing and getting paid. Ha ha ha. Yeah. Being poor gives people ambition to become success. It can, it can, but then it also puts people in a condition in which that they decide that trying to acquire wealth is too difficult, and so they end up putting into their head, like, I hate money. I don't need money in my life. Money's not important to me because there's better things out there in my life that I don't need money for. So I don't earn a lot of money and I don't need money in my life. In fact, I don't even like money, right? And I hear this from people at times. And I think, do you realize how damaging that is? To have that perception, to take on that thought, to say, money's not important to me, I don't want it, I don't earn a lot, and I don't care, right? Because subconsciously, you will not ever make any money. You will always be poor because the thoughts that you have will make sure that the decisions that you make will keep you poor. And that's the problem with not wanting to become successful or to earn money, is that the decisions you make will force you to be poor your entire life. So yeah, it happens. I've seen people do that. But necessarily being poor doesn't necessarily give you the motivation to it. A lot of times being poor puts you into such a depression that you end up doing other things to try and forget about how broke and poor you really are. And for me, it was alcohol, which kept me poor, right? Poor people that want to stay poor shouldn't have kids. Yeah. Most of my family thinks they are destined to be poor, and if you think you're destined to be poor, you will be. That's the whole problem with it is, and that was one of the. I mean, it was never the reason why I was poor, because I never hated money or anything like that. But I did get to a point in my life where it was just like, man, I really don't know what it is I'm going to do. And you kind of just give up. Like, the whole idea was just like, man, this sucks. I'm just not even going to try anymore. That's a different thought. Like to say like, I'm giving up, as opposed to I hate money. Like, I hate money and I hate everybody who has money. Like, I mean, that's like a lot of what people think, those dirty, rotten capitalists or something like that, when most people would love to be in that position. I mean, they would love to have all the money in the world to not have to worry about it ever again, let's see here. I enjoy living life and not spending every dime that comes with toys, but I make sure that fat cash keeps coming in. Well, and that's just the thing. I mean, if you're working harder than you're playing, then that's all there is to it. You can play as hard as you want, so long as you're working slightly harder than you're playing. Or that you have worked so hard in your life that now you get to play for the rest of your life. I mean, there's, it's a give and take kind of thing, right? I screwed up most of my life. And so, like, people are like, man, it's awesome. You're in a great position now. I was just like, yeah, but you don't have much lost time I have to make up for. I mean, it's just like, I have a whole lifetime worth of making up to do, Did becoming a YouTuber change your life? Yes, it did. Actually, it really did. 4K deep relaxing zone. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying there. It's just like, it totally changed my life around. If I didn't have YouTube, you guys would not recognize me. I mean, I would not be the same person that you're witnessing right now. I mean, I was in a very bad spot a few years ago. And, when I decided that I was going to quit drinking, that was really like one of the hardest things to just finally just commit to. It was just like, I'm just not going to do it anymore. And when that started taking place, then, you're not spending money on alcohol and stuff, then you have a little bit of money on it. And that's when I decided to make the commitment to getting out of debt. And it was hard to get out of debt. Like, you know how difficult it is when you don't really have any money to take $20, like some of like maybe only the $20 you have, and to walk down to your bank and put that down on a $9,000 credit card debt that you have. I mean, it doesn't even make sense almost to why you're doing it. Like it didn't even seem like it changed the number or anything else. Like, why am I putting this $20 towards a $9,000 debt? I mean, I literally walked to the bank so I could put this $20 into it because I didn't have a working car at the time. And the reason why I was doing that is because it put me in the mindset to get out of debt. And then pretty soon I was making decisions that would not, well, let me see, I was making decisions in my life that was helping me get out of debt. Like I wouldn't buy little frivolous, stupid things because I knew that if I spent it on that, I wasn't being able to pay off my debt. And then one day I got to the point where I was able to pay off my debt, and I did a video on that. I had saved up $3,000, like I've been stuffing envelopes, and I said if I ever get to a point where I have these envelopes stuffed enough that I could pay off my debt, I'm going to do that. And one day it occurred, and I went down to my bank, I did the video, I posted it on YouTube, I paid off that debt, and man, what a relief. It was like, it was one of the most like life-changing things that I felt. Like it like my life was not the same after that. It changed everything, the way I was feeling, the way I was behaving. Like everything started, like the views were prettier, the coffee smelled better, everything tasted better, people were friendly, everything about my life started getting better after I got out of debt. I didn't realize how burdensome, how stressful, how life deteriorating debt is, especially when it's like a non-producing debt, like credit card debt or something. I mean, it's different if you have hundreds of millions of dollars of debt and that debt is producing money for you, then, yeah, that's awesome to have that kind of debt. But if you have a bunch of consumer debt that you're just making monthly payments on and you don't even remember what you spent that money on, that sucks. That's a terrible position to be in. And once you're out of that, everything changes. All right. Politics affects economics, socialism versus capitalism. I'm sorry, Jackson Sparrow. I disagree. I think economics affects politics. Like the politicians would not behave in the way they did if the economy wasn't the way it was, right? And I know a lot of people are probably going to argue with that because they love to put their blinders on when they look at economics. And, I was talking with my wife about this one just the other day. I was just like, I when people were like, well, what about this political event? How is that going to, change your economic view? It doesn't. Like, there is no political event that ever changes my economic view, right? The political blinders that put on do not give you a clear view of the economy because you're constantly like, no, these guys are going to do this and these guys are going to do that. And that's what we're focused in on. And then you can't see anything outside of that little channel. So I don't follow politics whatsoever. Like I haven't for years. Like I gave up on it completely back when Ron Paul was blackballed out of the Republican Party. I just gave up on politics altogether. And I used to be really involved. Like there was a time I knew every congressperson's name, and I was very, very much like politically active with my thoughts and conversations and stuff like that. And one day it just dawned on me. It was just like, man, this is all bullshit. This is like, all of it is. They are not on your side. They are not there to try and educate the people so that they can behave in a way that is most benefit to them. There's none of that happening within politics. And so I just gave up on it altogether. I follow the banking system. I follow the Fed. I follow, monetary policy. When I just focused in on that, I realized that politics are just merely an effect, like a side effect of what's going on within the monetary system and what's happening there. Even Cantillon said it, that, when the money is flowing in, that all these politicians will start like doing all kinds of things that get them noticed. Like I think he talked about statues and stuff like that, and that they do all these things that make it seem like they're a really big deal or really important, but really they're of little consequence in the end results of things. And I found that very amusing. After I read that, it was just like, man, that's the reason why I got out of politics and didn't even know it, is because they really just don't have the pull to affect the economy like a lot of people think they do, especially when it comes from administration to the administration, one to the next. They think that this administration does that to them, and then that administration does that, and all this other. No, it one bleeds right into the other. They all play the same game. It's just what kind of filling do you want and what kind of wrapper do you want on your taco or burrito, because it's all Taco Bell politics. All right, 216 of you up in here. I appreciate it. Go hit that like button, and we'll get more people up in here. That'll get more comments going, because we love these comments. Simon, I hit 11 months sobriety tomorrow. Yes, Jaws. I wanted to ask about it, but I was a little nervous because I know this stuff is hard to do. But man, at 11 months, dude, we're going to party next month, right? I mean, I'll celebrate with you. I'm not sure how we'll do this, but I'm looking forward to hearing about that 1 year, dude. I'm super proud of you. All right. Good call, Kino. Gotta live within one's means. What did they say? I missed that one. All right. Thanks, brother. Jaws, that is awesome. Yeah, it is. All right. If China keeps up with what it's doing, oil will hold sub 80 barrels for WTI, and it'll stave off the worst of 2023 recession. Keep at it, Simon. Yeah, well, I definitely see that the cost of oil, or the barrel of oil, is definitely dropping. I mean, what was it? It was under 80 today. It was at 70 something. And I think about that. It was just like I remember, in the height of the barrel of the oil moving up. I mean, I was reading articles of people talking about $500 a barrel oil, and I was just like, what in the world are these people talking about? And it kind of made sense if you think about, like, if this situation continues, then we would run into $500 a barrel. But, no situation ever continues the way it is. So the energy costs going into, like, the inflation, right? Now, obviously, there's still going to be a lot of disruptions, a lot of shortages, a lot of that stuff coming into the system, or still, like, in the system, creating this type of constant inflation scenario or pressure that's happening. But when you see the price of oil dropping as much as it has, when you see, like, lumber back down to its normal, when you see things that are starting to turn back or revert back to the way they were, I mean, it's not everything, but it's starting to happen, and it's showing itself. Now, whether those conditions continue, that's like, I don't know about that. But, at this moment, it's definitely showing signs. So, anyway, moving on. Did I see another super chat pop up there? Yes, I did. It's the Lumberjack Landlord. Hey, Matthew, how you been? Most importantly, super chats help bring people into the YouTube algorithm. Let's get this to 1,000 watching. More UE. Hey, right on, Matthew. I really appreciate the super chat, and I really appreciate everybody coming into the chat and hitting that thumbs up when they get in. All right. Have a good night, y'all. You out of here, Jaws? All right. Is there a stock for gambling like lotto or scratch-offs? I don't know. All right. Let's see here. Wayne Smith, I paid $240 per cord in Wisconsin this year. Oh, for a cord of wood? My gosh. I remember selling cords of wood when I was a kid for like $65 a cord. It was like you go up in the woods, you'd work all day, and you'd make $65, and we thought that was awesome. All right, I paid $150 for a basic room at Econ Lodge. Oh, you guys aren't talking about cords of wood? Big fan. Hey, thank you very much, Paul. All right, $150 for hemlock here, $300 for Doug fir. Ye gads. Well, I'd definitely go with the Doug fir myself on that one. All right. 2 cords of wood and Wisco cut and split delivered, $500. This was last winter price. I don't know this year. How a semi-load. I know a semi-load of 8-foot green oak, $800. It's about 12 cords, I think. Wow. All right. Outstanding job with the Owen Benjamin interview. You've got a gift for it. Hey, thank you very much. I am really, really enjoying these interviews. I mean, I I knew it would be a lot of fun. Like I've always liked doing the interviews for other people. Like when, somebody asked me to come on their show and then I just kind of ramble on with whatever it is I'm doing. But I really enjoy having a conversation with somebody, like having that conversation with Owen. It was the first time I had actually really talked to him. We had emailed back and forth a few times to set up the interview. And then that was like really the first time that I had ever like actually had a conversation with Owen. And man, we hit it off. I mean, it was the conversation flowed just absolutely perfect. There was nothing rehearsed within it. We just went for it. And I find that that's what I do with a lot of the interviews that I'm doing. I just have a general conversation with them and not try to force anything or to try and, act anything out. Like I don't even know how I would do any of that. So, um, so these interviews are a lot of fun. And yeah, that one with Owen, I mean, man, what a great guy. He touched on some really good, topics to cover, and just like, life in general, just going through it, just some of our experiences. It was a good time. I really appreciated that. All right. You should check out Petrobras stock PBR NYSE. Tomorrow is the beginning of the end. Be safe, people, and save your money. Sell anything you can. Eat if you have anything you can't. Oh, sell anything you can't eat. If you have multiple cars, sell all. Man, only keep one and buy Bitcoin when it hits 1,000. Wow. Okay. Yeah, Obi interview was awesome. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. If oil gets pegged to gold, what price will gold go to? 30. I don't know. Why would I don't know who would price. I don't know. Is that a petrochemical company? Okay, Matt Bittner in the house. Struggling to find worker here. No affordable housing. All new apartments being built as low income, as well as the old ones. No housing for working class. Yeah. Let's see here. Just paid 12% dividend, but oil is tanking for the moment. Company. Okay, 30 cents drop in the unleaded here and 10 cents drop on diesel this week. Juan, thank you very much for the $4.99. Will there be a time when we can't buy regular things like toilet paper or tires due to the supply chain breakdown and China not producing? Yeah, now, Juan, I do see a time where we're going to have the real shortages kicking in. And that's really where, like, I don't think a lot of people realize that this stuff is not over. Like, we are not through the thick of it. I mean, it's still happening here. And I do believe that there's a scenario that's going to come where we are going to experience some serious shortages, like real shortages, not these ones that we had from a supply chain breakdown, but ones that are actual shortages of the lack of stuff. Now, think about it like this. We had a lack of stuff, but it wasn't a lack of stuff that hadn't been produced. It was a lack of stuff that wasn't being pushed through the economy. It wasn't being distributed, right? So I kind of think about it like the same thing from World War II, because a lot of people were comparing the inflation scenario to that of World War II, or the supply chain shocks that were taking place, because like a lot of the supply chain shocks that we were experiencing was a lot of the same type of supply chain shocks that we were experiencing during World War II. The only difference is that the supplies that were going to the war effort got consumed by the war, right? The supplies that weren't coming through this country were not coming through this country because they were locked on ships and sitting in containers and on rails and in trucks and in warehouses, but it wasn't making it to the shelf where the customer could buy it. So the similarity of the lack of supply was there, but the true lack of supply wasn't there because it wasn't being consumed by a war. It was just sitting someplace else where it couldn't be purchased. Well, now we have a situation in which that the manufacturing in China has dropped off dramatically because of all those COVID lockdowns. Now, it's not just the COVID lockdowns, but it was also the lack of orders. So you have to think about this. The manufacturers over there had an overwhelming consumer demand scenario taking place in the United States when there was a lack of supply and a stimulus check. And all these people were out there demanding all this stuff. And so all these people who supply stuff, right, didn't have stuff to sell, and they had all these customers screaming at them, hey, I want stuff, right? So these people who didn't have stuff start calling the manufacturers of stuff, right? And saying, hey, we want a lot of stuff because we have nothing on our shelves and we have all these people with money in their hands and they're all screaming for it, right? So they put in an intense amount of orders. But then the supply starts coming through. This lack of supply that has been sitting in warehouses, containers, and ships and stuff like that. Well, it starts coming through. And then the customers are happy and they're like, hey, man, I got my stuff. I'm happy. I don't need your stuff anymore. And the people who ordered stuff are like, oh, man, we already ordered a bunch of stuff. We need to cancel those orders. And so they start canceling orders and denying more orders, going back to the manufacturers in China. And they're like, oh, guess we don't need to be producing anything since nobody's ordering anything. And then all this stuff that had been sitting out there in warehouses and trucks and stuff like that will eventually find its way through the system, and there won't be a lot of manufactured goods coming in behind it because of the lack of manufacturing taking place in China now. You see what's happened here? So that is a real scenario that very well could come. And what that'll look like and what it will affect, I have no idea. Like, I don't know where that's going to hit, or if it's going to even be bad, or if it's just going to be more cost increases or something like that due to the lack of availability. But at the same time, the Federal Reserve is trying to kill the demand out of the consumer. So, what is that scenario going to really look like? I really do feel that there's going to be some serious shortages coming into the future. And I mean, really, I think the bigger problem for the rest of the world is going to be the food supply, not so much about whether or not they can get a TV, Please interview Peter Schiff. I'll try. Just to put it out there, I am putting out emails to just about everybody I can think of. Right now, it's the holiday season, so I don't think there's a lot of people who are probably eager to jump out there and do interviews, like as they're going into like getting ready to probably travel or visit or whatever. This isn't exactly like the biggest time for people to be working. So I do have the emails out there, and if I don't get a response, I'll put out more emails until I get people on here, All right. TP is made here in America. Yeah, it is. Almost all of it is. All right. Living 35 miles south of Boston. No drop in house prices. Maybe 7%. All right. What happened with Bang Energy drink contract, the Portland area? You can't find these drinks, these drinks. The drinks, yeah, I don't know. I don't drink that stuff. I drink coffee. Like that's pretty much the only thing I drink besides water. And kombucha. I love kombucha. I drink kombucha too. All right. Though it is safety meeting time. Right on. I got a little bit before I get my safety meeting. Cigarettes, alcohol, medicine, food, fuel, water, all perfect for bartering. Buy as much as you can. Can openers will be in high demand when shizzies hits the fizzies. Yeah, can openers. This is what everybody should have on their key ring right there. All right, check it out. I bet the all-nighter has one of these. You see that? You know what that is? All right. If you don't know what that is, you need to figure that out and get one of these and put it on your key ring. Okay. Hey, thank you, BDan82 for the $5. I really appreciate that. I shifted my giving to local causes because of your feed from a few streams ago when I asked you about global hunger. Thank you. Hey, well, thank you very much. Did you bring it more local? Is that what you're thinking? Is to try and bring in the idea to help the people within your community? See, somebody told me something a long time ago. It's a common thing that you hear, but I took it to heart. Somebody says, think globally, act locally, right? So you see the bigger globe problems out there, try to fix it right there within your area, right? Because you can't take on the world problems, but you can take on the problems that are there within your site, right? And I mean, sometimes it's just something very small that happens right there for this one moment, but acting locally is really important. All right. So thank you very much for that. Flu medicine was gone in small town Arkansas this past month. Robert Shields, thank you very much for the $1.99. High rates equal low production and inflation. I disagree. I think high rates is, well, I actually know you're right. High rates do create more of an inflation scenario. I think in the end, like not like I mean, how do I explain this? So the longer term aspect of it, yes, because like low rates actually is a deflationary scenario as the return on capital investment diminishes. So higher interest rates on capital investment is a better is the return that you're looking for, right? But that takes time. So like higher interest rates, return on capital investment increases, but you actually have to get that return on capital investment before you can then return it back into the economy. So it takes a long time before that does happen. But yeah, I do agree with that on the longer term. All right, people will have to learn to use the can openers on Swiss Army knives. Yeah, flu hasn't got here, SoCal yet. Container rates are back to pre-COVID levels, but sounds like a whipsaw effect within the economy at large. Yes, it is. Absolutely, it is, and that's why I'm, when you start hearing the mainstream media talk about how things have returned to normal, load up. That is by far the very last time you'll ever have to prepare again. Like I put out videos before your time to prepare is gone. Think about what happened right after that video. Like everything started crashing after that. Like everything started changing. And I wasn't like trying to be like, hey, I got this premonition or something that's going to happen. I mean, it was obvious that things were taking place. And there was a few places that you're going to have to be concerned about. Food was one of them. That was one of my main concerns about, going into the future is to make sure that you have canning supplies. Because it's not so much about the food, it's being able to preserve food. That's the key. Like, you can have a freezer, but if the power goes out, what good is that freezer going to do? So being able to can food or freeze dry, preserve, dehydrate, stuff like that, something where you don't need to have electricity to preserve it, like a freezer or something. And yeah, I think there's going to be some time. I think really we're going to be in a crisis scenario, like a major one, for them to introduce central bank digital currencies. That's that because Americans hate change. Like the American people do not want, even if it's something that's a great idea, the American people are like, nah, I think I'll just stick to my old ways. Even though that looks like a great idea, but no, thank you. I'm good. Right. That's how most Americans behave. So when it says like, even if they're like, hey, here's this great central bank digital currency, you want that? People are gonna be like, no, no, thank you. And like most of us who are aware of central bank digital currencies will reject it and, like hell no. But if you're in a crisis scenario and people are starving or, without shelter or power or whatever, and the government says, oh, we can help, here you go, take the central bank digital currency, they will take it. They will not even put up any kind of resistance for it. They'll be like, thank you very much, hand it on over. An interview with Chris Irons would be neat. Okay. Yeah, like I said, if if anybody happens to, know anybody who wants to be on the show or thinks that, they would like to be on the show or wants me to get in contact with them, set me up, I'm emailing out everybody I can think of right now. And like I said, it's not exactly the best time of year to try and hook up with people. So, all right. I think the company that makes Monster sued Bang. Bang is like crack in a can. Interesting. Hey, thank you very much, the Health and Wealth Podcast, for the $20. Very cool of you. Pitching in for the value you provide your community. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for your service. Well, bro, that is very nice of you, man. I really appreciate that. All right, P38. Yes, Eric, that's exactly what it is, John Wayne. I keep my key ring as light as possible. Well, yeah, I understand. I have a bunch of shit on my key. I don't need all this stuff. All right. Can opener. Are you in Astoria? I'm new. Yes, I am in Astoria, Oregon. Is the bow picker the best fish and chips in Astoria? The bow picker is pretty good. Now, I haven't been there in a while, but the last time I was there, yes, it was an excellent place to get fish and chips. here in Astoria. Now, I did just recently, and it wasn't that far from Astoria. It's up in Washington. It's on the peninsula up in Long Beach. I went up to a little food cart up there called Scallywags, and that was excellent. I was very impressed with it. The family, we each ordered something different. I had the fish and chips. My wife had the shrimp tacos. My boy had the clam chowder. All the food, everything that everybody ate was absolutely excellent. So I'm not downplaying the bow picker. They are very popular. Everybody in Astoria brags them up. But I haven't eaten there in a while. I did eat at Scallywags. They have really good fish and chips up at the up at there in Long Beach. It's kind of in a little court area. You just Google Scallywags Long Beach. I'm sure you'll find it. All right. What happens to treasuries in a recession? I mean, it depends, really. Like, you have to think, what would happen if it was a worldwide recession? Like, what happens when people flip out, when they freak out about whether or not they're going to lose everything they have? And what is it they're going to do? Like, most of the time, up until just recently, the dollar has always been considered the safe haven. Like, if you are in a worldwide recession, which doesn't really take place until just recently. I mean, before economies were kind of like their own thing going on, and if the United States went into recession, then the rest of the world got sick. But individual economies would have recessions all on their own and not really affect the United States. Now all these economies seem to work in lockstep with each other, like they all do the same thing. But that's because we became a global economy, and the United States has the world reserve currency, so whatever happens in the United States, the rest of the world is going to have to suffer with it too. Now, I mean, that's not like absolute, but for the most part. When you find that people or investors or whatever around the world start getting scared about their own sovereign currencies or their own sovereign nations, like stock market or just their economy in general, they all start flooding to some place. Like, where are you going to go? If you don't like your sovereign nation, you're going to go to your neighbor's sovereign, their economy and start buying into their investments, or you're going to go to the United States. You go to the United States. That's where you go, right? To find the safe haven place to be. And now you can go into their stock market, or you can go into different places in real estate or whatever. But if there's a threat of a recession, then that doesn't put you in a really comfortable position to be in. So then most people just want to sit tight. They just want to be like, well, I'm just going to sit tight in cash and just wait for all this stuff to go over before I find my investment that I want to be in. But most people don't want to just sit in cash because it doesn't really collect any kind of interest off of it. So what does that leave? All right? So you're the world, you're scared, you don't know where to go, you don't want to invest into something that's not going to be safe, right? So what do you have left? The U.S. treasuries, the safe haven asset, guaranteed to pay, zero chance of default. All right, so you can buy into U.S. treasuries, sit tight, collect a little bit of interest rate, and that's if you even have this, that's if you're outside of the United States, just kind of looking at to where I could possibly park my money. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that's kind of one thought that does take place out there. But right now, everybody's so scared of the dollar. Like, everybody is like, nope, dollar's going away, right? The hyperinflation scenario, whatever. Dollar's losing its value. BRICS nations, all this stuff is happening. Everybody's abandoning the dollar, right? And I even had somebody say this to me today. They're like, I still don't understand how it is that all these nations around the world can abandon the dollar, but yet here you are still saying that you see a strong dollar because of that. Yes, I do. I do see a strong dollar if the rest of the world decides that they are going to get out of the dollar altogether, to say, I do not want this. I'm not going to take part in anything that has to do with the United States dollar ever. I am done with it. If the nations around the world decided that they were going to take that path, it would cause the dollar to skyrocket. It would be so strong it would blow your mind. Because what would have to happen is that all those nations around the world who decided that they were done with the dollar would have to try and get out of their dollar-denominated debt. Think about this. They have issued out a lot of debt that is due in dollars. And in order to get out of that debt, they have to get a hold of the dollars to do it. And if everybody is trying to get out of it at the same time, that means everybody is trying to get a hold of dollars at the exact same time to try and get out of that debt. There is simply not enough dollars in the world to pay off all the debt. That would cause the dollar to strengthen like you wouldn't believe. Everybody would have to be doing it at the same time, though. So, that is a scenario that very well could take place. Now, if it did happen where everybody decided that they were going to be out of the dollar and not have anything to do with the dollar and just be completely done, there's going to be people who have dollars left in their hands that are outside of the United States. If they truly need to get out of those dollars, what they're going to have to do is take those dollars and send them back to the United States. What are they going to do? They're going to buy real estate, stocks, whatever it is that they could do to try and get out of that dollar, to try and have some sort of investment, because nobody else wants it, right? So nobody's going to be trading their oil or their commodities or whatever products that they have. They're not going to be trading them for dollars, right? They don't want them anymore. So the only place that's going to be taking them is the United States at that point. And so when you see all this money flooding back into the United States, that's the hyperinflation scenario that everybody is anticipating that it's going to come. It will be very obvious that that is going to happen. So is it happening right now? No. Right? Is this whole threat of like abandoning, Jesus, I cannot say that word, abandoning the dollar, if that scenario is out there, but in order for it to meet that ultimate end, it would have to follow some sort of process like that. Now, what I honestly see is that people are going to get to a point where they're going to be like, man, I got all these dollars, I don't know what to do. Where's the safe haven? Maybe I should buy gold, right? And those are going to be the two. So not only will they either be getting into gold or the treasuries, and I can see where the dollar and gold could rise together. That is a scenario that I could very well see, as nobody knows where to go. Like, you know, they could either go into the dollar or they can go into some other risky investment. Well, gold has no risk, has no counterparty risk to it. So you don't have to worry about anybody else's promises. Anyway, that's how I see it. All right. UE, how much land do you own with your house you purchased? Not much, not nearly enough. So, yeah, it's not much. I've got cans, need to refine my skills. A realtor called me today about an off-the-grid property. That'd be cool. I got a hunting bow, gotta learn to hunt. Yeah, yeah, and you know, like, it's not necessarily going after big animals. Like, you don't have to kill a deer. I mean, there is all kinds of little critters out there that you can eat. Okay. All right. When savings accounts go negative, everyone will go to CBDC. Yeah, and I think that actually the CBDC will occur before the negative interest rates will happen. They'll have CBDC in the system and then pull the cash out. Once the cash is out, then they can take rates negative. But the moment you take rates negative, everybody will start moving into cash. And so they got to have the cash out of the system first. All right. Little House of Grid. Cleared student debt for digital dollars. Excuse me. Drina Daisy is an amazing restaurant in Astoria. Yeah, it is. That's a very unique... what is it, Bostonian? Like, I forget what kind of cuisine it is, but it's really good. It's very unique. Yep, brand new cabin. Let's see here. Robert Shields with $1.99. Thank you so much. Do Fed hikes reduce supply, create more inflation? Okay, so that's okay. The idea behind the Federal Reserve and the lifting of interest rates is that they're trying to hurt the consumer, right? They're trying to tell the consumer, hey, don't be using a bunch of debt to go out there and buy stuff with, right? If you want to buy stuff, go and earn the money to do it. So if they can keep the consumer from buying stuff using debt, then most people are probably not going to be consuming things because they need the debt to do it. Right, so that's kind of the idea that the Federal Reserve and the lifting of interest rates is going to do to try and keep the consumer from driving up the prices by, you know, all the demand that goes into it. I don't think that's going to work, but I don't think it's going to work because of what a lot of other people are thinking. I don't think it's going to work because if the Federal Reserve puts out the statement, hey, we are trying to hurt the consumer, we're trying to hurt demand, then the people on the other side of that, the people who are suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, and all that other stuff, how likely are they going to be wanting to invest into that idea? Like, they're sitting back there looking at the Federal Reserve saying, wait a minute, you guys want to lift interest rates to hurt the consumer, put a hold on demand, like to keep demand down. And we're suppliers, manufacturers, distributors over here. We need people demanding our services and our products, and you're trying to hurt them. Why am I going to invest into this? I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure that one out, Fed. Can you please explain to me why it is that you want help from me, the supplier, manufacturer, distributor, when you're telling me that you're going to hurt my customer? Like you're trying to tell my customer, don't use my services. Why would I invest into that? I'm not going to, right? So they're not going to get help from this side of things. They're not going to get it from the supply, distributor, manufacturer. That side they're not getting it from. So what ends up happening is that they have the supply and demand issue imbalance, right? They got supply here, demand here, and they're trying to get the demand to come down and meet the supply. But the problem is that as they hurt the demand, they're going to hurt the suppliers too, because the suppliers, manufacturers, distributors don't want to invest to try and make up for the fact that there's a demand up here, but they're way down here. So as they start to hurt the demand, they're going to hurt the suppliers too, and both of these are going to start dropping together until eventually the demand meets the supply. And then at that point, they can start moving off again. And that's why it's going to take forever before the Federal Reserve reverses their stance on interest rates. They're going to keep it elevated until that happens, which means less supply and less demand altogether. All right, Juan, thank you so much for the man. You loaded me up tonight, man. Thank you so much. What will happen to countries that can pay, work harder for less? Countries can't really pay. Like, I guess they could. Like, just like anything out there, if you were in debt and you wanted to get out of debt, what do? Right? You have to work harder and then spend less. Well, the same thing for any nation out there who wants to get out of debt. They have to tell their people, we're going to tax you more, and then we're going to provide you with less government stuff, right? Less government programs or anything out there. So we're going to tax the hell out of you, and then you don't get anything from us. That's what it takes. And it takes years of that in order to even remotely come close to the idea that you're going to get out of debt. Like, most people won't be able to do it because it's too painful, right? Okay. However, they are trying to dump that USD department off to anyone who will buy it. These so-called experts are predicting 2023 to be an outright depressing time. Yeah. Love the interview with Owen Benjamin. You've got balls having him on. Why? Why is that? I don't even get that. Like, I mean, why? Because I'm worried that, like, what am I worried about? Like, what are they going to do? I mean, I guess they could shut down my channel, right? But are they going to shut down the channel because you had somebody on, or is it because of what they say? Like, I can understand that if you come out and you start mouthing off a bunch of racial stuff and you're like, just being just a complete belligerent jerk or something like that, then yeah, I could see that. But just by having, I thought he was a great guy, right? I didn't have any problems with the conversation. I thought everything went through great, and I don't know why the hell anybody would ever have a problem with that. And to me, that wasn't having balls to have him come on my show, right? I mean, that's like, it's just being me and just hanging out. Like, I appreciate it, but it didn't take anything other than the willingness to have the conversation with him, But I appreciate that. 2 super chats to catch up on. Did I miss some? I'm sorry. Did I miss any more, all-nighter? Did I get them all? I'm trying to go through here. All right. Jeffrey Danger got the $5 thumbs up. Thank you so much. All right. Where is it? Here we go. Infamous NYC. Thank you so much for the $5. Once cash is out of the system, only way to barter metals or BTC if you want to get out of the system. Wouldn't that kill expats outside of the CBDC system? Well, yeah, I mean, I guess those scenarios could take place where you would have like, I mean, all the controlling, turn you off, all that, like, they will prevent you from doing these purchases and stuff. I don't think any of that stuff is going to happen in the early days. Like, I think when central bank digital currencies comes out, like, you will be able to do whatever the hell you want with it. Like, there will be no repercussions for anything, even black market deals, like illegal deals or whatever, because they want to make sure that people are confident with it. Like, that is the key to any kind of currency out there, or money or government or anything, is that the people have to have a trust for it. They have to believe that it's going to work. And if they have any kind of idea that they are going to get in trouble if they have it, then they won't use it. They will just avoid it. And the mother is necessity, or the necessity is the mother of invention. People will figure out a way to do other kind of transactions, especially if they're going to get caught or in trouble or just feel that way about it. Like, if you don't feel that way about the money, then you wouldn't worry about it, right? But that's that they I mean, the powers that be know that. I mean, if the uneducated economist can think of that, then you know that the powers of the whole system know it too. So it's all about confidence, and they're going to make sure that you are confident using it. So it may take generations, literally like generations of people using central bank digital currencies before they really start twisting the screws to it, and putting in their, whatever tyrannical powers. He's better than Ramsey. Life just ain't fair. Nah, life ain't fair. I mean, life ain't fair. I mean, I just don't get it where people are like, well, it's not fair that these people live that, or I don't have, or whatever. No, you're right. It ain't fair. It ain't ever going to be fair. That sucks, right? It sucks for you. Yeah, it's awesome for him. He's a jerk over there and he's got it all. That sucks, right? Life ain't fair. It's the way it goes. And to blame somebody else for that, it's just like, I mean, you can understand, man, I put myself in a really bad position, or it wasn't even my fault. Like, I'm in this really bad position, and that person over there, they just win the lottery every time they turn around. Like, how come that's the way it is? It's because life isn't fair. And a lot of it has to do with the way you're thinking, too. A lot of people don't realize that. All right. Benefits are usually available. Now, thoughts on BRICS and today's visit to China? I didn't catch anything that was happening politically, so I don't know if there was a trip to China. But as far as the BRICS nations go, I mean, it's happening, right? The Brazil, India, Russia, China, South Africa, these people are going to form a new world trading organization, whatever, to compete with the current one that's happening out there. And there's, like, again, like, I'm not trying to deny this thing. It is definitely happening. It is out there. It has been taking place for a long time. I mean, I remember reading about the BRICS nations like 15 years ago when I first started, like, studying economics. This is not new. This is not something that is like happening like tomorrow. It's going to change everything the way things are done. It's not like that at all. The BRICS nation makes up a very small amount of the overall transactions and of global trade that has taken place out there. The BRICS nation is a very small portion of that. And when you think about like how much that they would have to do in order to take over the United States, it's an insane amount. There's no nation out there that even remotely comes close to what the United States is doing. Think about it like this. If you want to have the world reserve currency, there's a couple of things that you have to provide for the world. One of them is a safe and liquid asset like the US treasuries. Okay? Now, this is something that you have to provide for the world, is the safe and liquid asset like this treasury, in order for people to be able to, invest their money, hold money, whatever. It's just like they got these treasuries on their balance sheet. Right? So in order to do that, you have to have a nation that is willing to go into deepest debt as the United States is, in order to provide the world with that stuff. So there's no other nation that's willing to take on the debt load like the United States is. And then on top of that, then you have to provide the world with those actual dollars. And now, how do you do that? Like, how do you provide the world with all this money? Well, the easiest way to do it is to buy their stuff. And so not only do you have to provide the world with the safe and liquid asset by going into an incredibly steep amount of debt, but then on top of it, you have to go into incredible amounts of deficit trading, where you take in more stuff than you export so that you can export your dollars to the rest of the world. If you can find another nation that's willing to do that, then we'll find somebody who's going to be willing to take over the world reserve currency. But there's no nation that even remotely comes close to that, not even close. And the BRICS nations as a whole barely even scratches the surface of what the United States is doing. So is it going to happen over time? Yeah, you bet it is. If you're making your decisions on your investment decisions on them taking over soon, I'm sorry, man. I'm not on that page because it ain't happening tomorrow and it ain't gonna happen the day after that. So it's a long ways down the road that the BRICS nations actually take over. That's my opinion. There's other people out there who might say something completely different about that. Hey, we all have our opinions. No one made you sign your name on the line. No? Anyone believe in karma? The more I give, the more I make. Yeah, I do. I do believe in that. Let's see here. In prison, coffee and cup of noodles is used as currency. Prisoners have adapted to view paper dollars as worthless because they can't be spent in there. Society will adapt to avoid using central bank digital currencies. All right. Is better to give than receive. Agreed. Okay. Question: why, if you have 100K subs, why you only have 200 views when you go live? I don't know. I mean, I've had 1,200 views at times. I mean, I don't know. Go out. Hey, I tell you what, man. Why don't you go and get 1,000 of your friends to come on or something, and then we wouldn't be worried about 200 views. 200 views is good, man. I got 200 people. I don't need 2,000, man. 200 is good. I appreciate the 241 of you who are here right now. I'd appreciate it if you went and hit the like button. We would get even more people up in here. I don't care if it was 5 of you up in here. We would still be talking the same thing, All right. I don't know, Simon. I think BRICS is more a threat if they work within their own, removing their commodities from the remaining nations. Okay, that's cool. I mean, no, I agree. I agree if they do that, they're going to put some pressure on everybody out there or whatever. But think about it. Where is your market? I mean, if you want to make money, where do you go? Right? Where do you go? Like, if you really want to make money, do you man, I got this awesome product. I'm going to take it to India. Yeah, I'm going to sell this thing in India, man. Right? No, you're going to take it to America. You're going to sell it in the United States because that's where you're going to get the most money for it. I'm not saying you might not sell it in India. India is great, but nobody's thinking, man, I'm going to really move this thing over to India. That's my market. That's where I'm going. No, everybody goes to America because that's where you're going to sell it, And if Americans buy it, then the rest of the world will too. I don't get it, but that's just the way it is, Question: why banks go bust if they can create currency at will by issuing debt? Is because you have a balance sheet, right? And if you put out a bunch of bad debts and they don't pay, then you lose, right? You end up going bankrupt. It's just like anybody else. You got a balance sheet, assets and liabilities, right? And all the assets are the loans you have out there, and all the liabilities are all the money you put out. So if people don't pay the asset, the loan, then you don't get the liability back, you go bankrupt. So it's not like it's not hard. I mean, what sucks about it is that banks don't need deposits to make money, right? So they can get your asset, that loan, that, your bottom line, your number, your name, and to say, hey, I got this asset, I got this dude who's going to be paying me, $1,200 a month for the next 5 years. I'm going to borrow money from this guy at a cheaper rate than what I'm lending it from him for, and I don't need any money to do this, right? I'm a bank. I get to go to another bank and borrow the money for the asset that I have, which is your signature. And so that's pretty much how banks work. And if they sign a bunch of loans or give loans to people who aren't going to pay, then they go bankrupt for that. All right. Question. Okay, I'm finally done with work, traveling home now. Right on, all-nighter, so you ought to be feeling pretty good here in a few minutes. I say that allegedly a majority of countries now have China rather than USA as its biggest trading partner, whatever that means. Yeah, have you seen some of the trade issues that China is going through right now. I mean, people are bailing out of China. They were pissed off about that whole locking down of manufacturing and all that other stuff. And they're like, you know what, China, screw you. We're out of here. We're manufacturing in Vietnam or the Philippines or whatever. And they're bailing out of there right now. Not everybody, but a few of them, yeah. Question, why there is competition for the Fed? Competition for the Fed. I'm sorry, is there a competitor against the Fed right now? I mean, is there another central bank that's trying to issue the world reserve currency that's not the Fed? I mean, I'm kind of missing that one, I guess. Why there is competition for the Fed? Other Fed. I'm sorry, bro. I'm probably it's probably me. I'm just not understanding the question. I'm sorry. I agree. I enjoy the commute to work. Remember that the last stream. Yeah, and that's like one of the things about having a nice car. Like I don't really need a nice car because I like literally my commute to work is 20 minutes. If it was 2 hours and 20 minutes or I was driving like that much in a day, then I would want a much nicer car to drive around. I want something that's comfortable, something that has a better stereo, whatever, because you're spending a lot of time in that vehicle. I mean, it's more than just transportation at that point. It's like, part of your day. All right, let's see here. Riots at Foxconn, bad for iPhones. Yeah, they deserve it, I guess. Why there is not competition for the Fed if it is private? There you go. Why? That's a really good question. Why isn't there a competition for the Fed? I would love for there to be competing currencies out there. We can have the central bank digital currencies. We can have a fiat currency. We can have treasury notes. We could have gold and silver and cryptos and all kinds of stuff out there, and then the people can make their own decisions on what it is that they want to do. The only problem with that is that government wouldn't be able to just willy-nilly spend like they do. So that's going to be pretty difficult to try and get competing currencies out there. It can happen. You, as an individual, are not required to take US dollars. Did you know that? Stores are not required to take cash. Like they can make a payment. You can make a payment to them however they want, right? I mean, but you go to them and say, "Here, you take my $5." Like, I don't want $5. I want something else. I mean, I want a trade it for a silver coin or something like that. They can require you to do that. Doesn't mean that you get to sue them or anything else for it. I mean, look it up. Look up if a store is required to use Federal Reserve notes. And even the Federal Reserve admits it straight up. No store is required to use it. Now, you are required to accept whatever it is as if it was dollars. So if you're taking a trade, like, it's just like I'm a plumber or whatever, and I'm not getting paid in dollars, but I'm getting paid in a TV. Like this guy's giving me a $500 TV for my bill. You're supposed to report that as if you were paid $500 and then pay taxes on $500, even though you were paid in a TV. So that kind of scenario can happen, but you are not required to get paid or required to accept or required to force somebody to take US dollars. It's all voluntary, right? Except for paying taxes. That part you have to do in dollars, and that's not voluntary. So that's the reason why we all use dollars, is because we're forced to pay taxes in it. That is it. And everything else is voluntary. I'm going to a professional sports game. No cash. Question. Man, you're on this one tonight, aren't you? All right. Is it possible for Elon Musk and Bill Gates or someone else to make their own Fed and overthrow the Fed? Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of like what Bitcoin or one of the other cryptocurrencies. I mean, if you wanted to try and create a currency that is competing as if it was dollars, then you might get busted for counterfeiting. There is counterfeiting laws that you would be stepping into if you were to attempt something like that. In fact, who was it? Liberty Dollars. What was that guy's name? Somebody in here knows. Van Gundy, Van Gruesome, Man, I can't remember his names. There was a guy out there, and he called Liberty Dollars, and he had coins and paper folding money that were like silver certificates almost. And he had a warehouse basically full of silver, and he issued out a bunch of notes, like folding paper dollars, that you could take back to the warehouse and claim your silver with it. So they were like basically claim tickets, but they look kind of like money. I mean, not like the money we use, but similar in a fashion. And he started putting these things out there for people to buy. Like you could own silver, but you didn't have to have the physical silver. You could have like these paper silvers and then use it as like a claim ticket to go get it. So anyway, he started issuing these Liberty dollars out there, and I actually have a few of the coins. And it was really popular. There was like a couple of communities that really enjoyed using these Liberty dollars, and they started actually using them for like daily commerce. And the government came in and says, nope, you're counterfeiting, and they stole all his silver and all his paper receipts and all his other stuff, and then basically told him that he was counterfeiting and put him out of business. And so that happened there, with that guy. Okay. Bernard Van Nothouse, thank you so much. Who said that? Hollywood Hitch, thank you very much for bringing up his name. I really appreciate that. He did years in prison for it, did he really? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I knew he got in trouble. I remember seeing some of the interviews that he was doing with them. Question: if you are not obligated to get dollars, why in the dollar bills says they are legal tender for all private and public debt? Okay, very good question. Take a look at a 1950 Federal Reserve note. In that spot where you're talking about, it says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. It says the same thing. You know what else it says? This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, and is redeemable for lawful money. Take a look at it. I have them at home. Maybe I'll make a video that says it. That little spot, that little disclaimer that says on the dollar that this is legal tender for all debts, public and private, it used to say on there, and is redeemable for lawful money. So if it's redeemable for lawful money, then what the hell is it? If it's redeemable for lawful money, then that means it can't possibly be lawful, right? Pretty interesting. Take a look at that. It says it on there. All right. Did you buy the Goonies house? No. Nobody started a GoFundMe page to make the $1.5 million it would take to buy it. I mean, I guess I could buy it. I'm like $1.49 million away from being able to buy it. But, I mean, still got a few more super chats I think we can get. I don't think I'll be getting the Goonies house. ASMR Econ Woo. All right. Thoughts on GDP adjusted for PPP by the measures? China's first in the world, and Russia is like 7 in the world, way ahead of the UK and France. I don't know, man. Like, to be honest, I don't know I don't know what to say about it. It's just like, here's the thing. I don't want to say it like this, but I kind of quit looking at the numbers. Like, I don't really give a shit what the numbers are, just more of the direction that they're headed. And it's not because I don't care about the numbers. It's just that after FASB 56, when we talked about that, it's legal lies. The government has already stated to us that all the numbers that you see are completely fraudulent. Like, every single one of them is completely fraudulent. They admit this. And that the numbers that they are showing you are good for investment purposes or your retirement plans and all the other stuff, but they're not the actual numbers because they need to protect those for national security reasons. I mean, I did a video on this. It's called FASB 56 Legal Lies. I mean, go and check it out. So after that, I read all that and kind of learned about it. I'm like, I don't know what the point of looking at the numbers are anymore. It doesn't matter. It's the direction in which they're headed that I'm going to use to try and do my economic predictions from. Because whatever the number is, it's a completely fraudulent number. It doesn't mean anything anymore. So I don't know. Like, I don't know what I don't know. Anyone else buy silver with their stimulus during COVID? I bought a little bit, not a lot. Pretty much I'm of the position in which that I think that there's going to be a bigger, better buying opportunity as a recession kicks in and debts come due, people are going to liquidate everything they have to try and get in as much cash as they can to try and pay off the debts to save their life. That is something that happens just about every recession. So that is your buying opportunity. That's the blood in the streets. That's the time that you really want to be ready. And so anyway, no kidding. You live in the Goonies town. Yeah, yep, I live in the Goonies town. And let's see here. What year was that dollar? What year was that dollar? The one with the Federal Reserve note that I have a 1950s $5 bill, and then I have like a 1964 U.S. Treasury note, and then like I don't know, I forget what the silver certificate, but it was one of the last years they made a silver certificate. So I have a Federal Reserve note, a U.S. Treasury note, and a silver certificate. And what I found interesting is that of these three notes, the Federal Reserve note is the oldest one, then the U.S. Treasury, and the newest note in that series that I have is the silver certificate. And now, if you go and you look at all of them, they all like say something very different to it. Like I like the silver certificate because it almost reads as if it's a claim ticket, you know. And this certifies that there is on deposit at the U.S. Treasury or Federal Reserve Bank 1 ounce in silver or $1 in silver payable to the bearer upon demand. So you take this silver certificate, it's a claim ticket, you go and you get your $1 worth of silver from it. Then you go and you look at the U.S. Treasury, and it says right on there that, you know, this note, legal tender for all debts, public and private, and can be redeemed at any Treasury or Federal Reserve for $5. And I'm thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense, right? So same thing with the Federal Reserve notes. These are all notes that had existed and were in circulation at the exact same time. Like people had all three of these bills in their wallets at the exact same time, and I doubt anybody really knew the difference between any of them. Yeah. I mean, there was probably some people who did, but most people didn't. All righty. Just parked soon enough to drop the band hammer. Good for you, man. I thank you for being on that too, all-nighter. That's really cool of you to do that. All right. Why are 8x8s so much money right now? Okay. 8x8, you're talking 8x8 beams. That's a good question because they are up there. Some of the bigger beams are a lot more expensive than the rest of the framing lumber that has come down quite a bit. And the reason for that is it's really about production from the mills. Like the demand for 2x plate material is far more than beams, right? So when a mill is like got a high demand for plate material, that's all they're going to pump out is plate material, right? So that leaves very few beams out there in the system to be purchased. And if it's a supply and demand issue, again, right? Less supply, higher demand, prices go up. And so that's the reason why you're probably finding that the bigger beams are more expensive right now than they should be. All right. What time is it? All right, guys, I'm going to give it about another 10 minutes and then I'm going to bail on out of here and go home. But I certainly appreciate everybody hanging out. So if we have more questions, we got, a few more minutes here to get a few more out. So, all right. Money, gotta have it, yeah. All right. All right. This is Gabic USA free computer training. All right. If people start using the euro or any other currency for transactions, do they still have to pay taxes because they are not earning dollars? Will the government take euros for taxes? Are you talking about here in the United States? Like if people start using euros here, like I could not. I mean, you could accept a euro all you want. Like, I mean, you want to get paid in euros and somebody has it, I'm sure you can get paid in euros. The only problem with it is what are you going to do with it? Like, I mean, yeah, people can do it. I don't know what they're going to do with it. Like, you have to have a currency that everybody else is willing to want and use, right? You can't just, I mean, you could try to force it upon people. So, I mean, if you're coming up with a hypothetical scenario, I mean, what if people just started using gold? What if people just started using crypto? What if people just start using seashells? I mean, there's a lot of things that people could do if they, if you put what ifs in there. But I don't see the euro coming to the United States. Like, I mean, it could. I don't see that scenario. I couldn't possibly just sit there and just fabricated an imagination of like what that would be like if it wasn't a reality, you know? I mean, so I don't know. Like I don't know. All right. Around about will the second leg of the recession kick in, and uglier does that look? Around about will a second leg a recession kick in? What does that look like? I don't know. I think it's probably only going to be a singular, like a double dip recession. Like we went through a recession during the pandemic. This would be the second leg of the recession, right? But a lot of people don't even know we went through a recession. So this would be the only recession that they have experienced in the last 12 years, because being locked down at home with the stimulus check didn't really feel like a recession to them. All right. Would you suggest getting into trades over sales? I have basic carpentry skills and hospitality background with sales skills. What would you do with your current predictions? All right. I'm going to give it to you, man, the way I believe in it. If you want to have a very simple, systematic life, I want to show up 9 to 5. I want to contribute to my 401k. I want to eat my dinner and I want to go home, or I want to go to bed and I want to wake up and I want to do that again. Right? If that's the life, yeah, do the plumber, do the skills, and you're going to probably end like in retirement with a pretty decent retirement. Like you'll probably do really well. Have, nice house and all the, a nice truck or whatever, and be able to vacation around and do whatever you want. Now, if you want to make it big time, like if you want to make some money, you have to do it in sales. Like unless you have some sort of other professional skill that you can really pull off, like, being a doctor, lawyer, or something like, crazy like that. But if you're like me and you don't really have much going on as far as like, I can do carpentry, I'm pretty good at that. I can build houses, frame houses together and stuff. But the only way that I was ever going to make it without breaking my back was to get into sales. And when you're in sales and you have like the ability to make a commission, that's really where you want to be. Like I personally, I don't make commissions off of my sales. So it's just, whatever I do, I do. But if you can make commissions and you have a place that you can sell a lot, like you can really, like, there is no limit to how much you can sell, that is by far going to be the best position that you can be in. Because sales, there is no limit to how much you can make. Carpentry, plumbing, you only have so many hours in a day. Like you can only work so much in a day, and that's it. And there's no real way of increasing the amount that you're going to get paid unless you increase like your hourly wages or something like that. So you could take on more work, but it doesn't mean anything. It just means that you're going to be working that much farther out in time, right? But if you could work sales and you can sell more, well, you can sell more in 1 hour as much as you sell in 2 hours, right? So it's sales is by far the better place to be in, and especially a commission sales. And then not to mention, like, if you are a really, really good salesman for a company, like you are the number one salesman, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Like you don't get told what to do. You're like, you see, like you hear about it all the time. Like, that they got this salesman up there. He's really good at what he does, but he just walks around all cocky and arrogant all the time. Yeah, that's right. It's because he's the number one salesman. That's what you get to do, right? But you have to perform. You have to be the number one salesman, and you have to be able to pull that stuff off. So anyway, yeah. So that's how it goes. If you want a systematic life, go plumbing. If you really want to make it big, you got to get into sales. Silver is actually half of gold ounce. Beware. UE is the man. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate that. Trying to get as much cash for real estate investing. Good for you. And that's definitely the way to go. I mean, if you really want to know about real estate investing, you got to follow guys like Lumberjack Landlord. I mean, he's putting out the information practically daily for those who want to get into the real estate market, to hear from the experts, really. I mean, the issues that they went through, the stuff that they need to do to make sure that they're successful. I mean, they're sharing their secrets with them. I mean, I can't thank Matthew enough for that. Do you think food and energy will ever come down? Yeah, it will, but it's going to be a really horrible scene when it does, because what's going to happen, it's the same thing. You can see it happen in like trucking, right? We saw it happen in the masks. like, the surgical mask. These things, it's going to happen in food as well. What's going to happen is that the price of food is going to really skyrocket, okay? And when it skyrockets, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to take advantage of the high-priced food. So they're going to start investing into farms. They're going to invest into farm equipment, all kinds of everything it takes to produce food, right? Because they want to take advantage of those high prices. But then all this food production is going to come into the system, and what's going to happen? Supply overwhelms demand, and then the price of food collapses. Well, it's not just the price of food collapsing, it's also all the people who had taken out debt to increase their farms, to produce more food. All those people then get caught in a debt trap where the food doesn't produce enough money for them to pay off their debts, and then these farms start going out of business. Then the food shortages kick in. How long that takes, I don't know. Like, it takes a while. All right, you can start a company. Hey, here's something. I'm going to take off here in a few minutes, guys, but here's an idea that I was talking with my assistant about. We're trying to come up with some other ideas as far as, like, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm trying to figure out ways to kind of monetize the channel a little bit without, like, just outright taking sponsorships or something like that, because really that's the only way that I can see to, like, really increase the amount of money I can make doing this channel. And I don't want to be like the sellout kind of guy. Like, even just a couple of little sponsorships that I have done, I already got accused of being a sellout for it and stuff like that. So I'm trying to figure out ways so that I can, like, try and monetize the channel a little bit differently. And one of the ideas that I had was to, or at least, Chandler had with me, was to do, like, private consulting, which I thought was kind of weird. Like, why would anybody want to pay me to sit there and have a private conversation with me? But that was one of the things that she had suggested. And also I kind of suggested was maybe, like, once a week, joining into, like, a Zoom, like, roundtable discussion, and, I don't know, to charge to get into that or something like that. But anyway, those things just kind of seemed like, I don't know, like, I don't know how quite to describe it. Like, am I really worthy? Are people really willing to pay for that kind of thing? But anyway, it was just an idea out there to try and keep me from, like, trying to take sponsorships, All right, was just gonna type sell phone calls. Well, so you think write a book? Yeah, that's my number one thing. It's just like, I think what my problem is that I need to start reading so that I could get into the mindset of actually, like, being in a book or writing a book. I was also thinking courses, like to teach a course. And in fact, I was having a discussion with a gentleman over email about this exact topic. And to create, like, a 10 course, like, video course, like an hour for each course or something like that, and then sell those courses off. And again, like, I thought about it, I was like, man, that's a good idea. But then I thought, like, what are these courses going to be about? Like, what is that? Like, I mean, you can just watch my channel and get everything that I know. So I guess I could concentrate it down, but these are just some of the ideas that I was rolling across. Anyhow, if you guys have any ideas, email me. I'd love to hear them. All right. Grow your own food and fish for your protein while you are living in a van down by the river. Yeah, the Zoom sounds cool. People who pay will be more in tune and better combo. Skin in the game. Yeah, and I also thought, like, if you kind of limit it to just a handful of people, they could really, like, especially if I brought in, like, a good guest or something to join in on the conversation, then we could have, like, a particular topic, like maybe bring Matthew in and talk just strictly real estate, or, if I could even get somebody cool like Peter Schiff or something and talk, like, specifically about metals or metal investing or something like that. And to have these kind of discussions, or even if I couldn't, just to, just break down what it is that maybe somebody is confused about, so we can, like, maybe just break it down and really get into depth talking about, like, say something like the bond market or something like that. These are just other kind of ideas that I had, but anyway, just seeing what you guys thought. I like the group chat. Well, cool. A group on a book on your lumber industry knowledge could be great for traders, builders, etc. Okay, yeah, that's definitely. I bought Tony Lope's book after watching you guys. Hey, right on. Well, let me know how that is, because I haven't read it yet. I did read a few of the a few of the chapters out of it, not the chapters, a few pages out of some of the chapters, just to kind of get an idea of what the book was like. But I'm a terrible reader when it comes to like being consistent on reading. And I haven't read his book, so I'm sorry, Tony, but I will promote it as much as I can. Will you interview Peter Schiff? I would love to interview Peter Schiff. Yeah, if I can get him on the show, I will. I'm gonna put the emails out there. Like I put out a handful out there because I just wanted to get a few people under my belt, so to speak, so I have a few practice interviews to see how it goes. I think I did pretty well at it, and I'm not really nervous about like interviewing anybody at this point. So I mean, I would take on any interview right now if anybody can hook me up with one. But like I said, I got the emails out there, and I'm trying to get them set up. I listen to most books. Yeah, that's what a lot of people tell me. And even still on when I listen to books, like I'm pretty good at it if I'm doing something else. Like I was listening to a book while mowing the lawn. So if I have something else like really like I don't have to focus in, like, mowing the lawn, you don't have to pay attention, you just, mow the lawn. Then I can really focus in on a book and listen to it. But if I'm trying to do something else, like focus in on doing something meticulous or trying to concentrate on it and then listen to something at the same time, I end up stop listening. Even though I hear the words, they're going in, but like I'm not putting any thought into what's being said or whatever. And sometimes I wonder if I'm really grasping what's being said. Okay. All right. If politicians know then printing more money, it will decrease its value, don't they lose their savings, or do they save in gold and silver or something else? Uh, I would imagine most politicians invest their money into something that they know is going to go up from the reaction caused by their votes. All right. Let's see. Those emails should work well. You have a good network going. Well, I hope so. I mean, like I said, people, they get caught up. They get, they have other things going on. A lot of times, like just, doing an interview for a YouTuber out there isn't exactly like on the highest level of their priorities and stuff like that. So again, like, I'm going to put the emails out there, and if we get some of these guys, we get them. If not, I'm not going to be stressing about it. So I'm just going to do the interviews as they come. Whoever shows up, shows up, Me too, exactly. Listen is majority. All right. Is that a Dave Ramsey Gazelle hoodie? No. This is my work hoodie, and I put a piece of tape over the name so that I'm not, advertising out there. All right. What industries do you see flourishing in the coming economical circumstances for sales agents? Man, as far as like going to try and find a particular product or industry to sell into, man, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, because ultimately for me, it's not so much, to me, it's more about the product that I'm selling. Like I have to really believe in the product. That's why I like doing sales and lumber and in building supplies is really good for me, because I really understand that industry. And so when somebody was just like, man, I want this and I want the high quality or whatever, I'm picking out this. And it was just like, well, if you're going for high quality, then you don't want to buy that one. Like this is the type of sales that I like to do, is to be involved with my customer, know the product, and be able to sell it to them. There's other places that can be made, that more money could be made easily, like for me anyway. But it's not so much about going for the money. I'm trying to pursue something else in my life of being content and happy, and money doesn't do that for you. Like you can have all the money in the world, and if you buy a car and it's just like, whatever, what's the point? Like, what's the point of all that? So it's not a matter of the money. It's a matter of being happy with your life and the things that you're doing within it. And, for me, like I could go and pursue money. People ask me all the time, you should go work for some, financial advisor, hedge fund, whatever, with all the analytics, and stuff. I don't want a stressful job where I have to do something like that. Like that's not the direction I want to go. In fact, I'm trying to take stress out of my life. I want to do less things to try and earn money, but yet have enough money in my life, but it's doing stuff like like YouTube, this doesn't feel like work to me. This feels like a very natural, like just part of me. So anyway, moving on here. Let's see, what time is it? I gotta go, guys. I gotta go eat. I got some phone calls to make too. Do the work, you know. All right, try logistics freight forwarding. It's highly diversified, and logistics will only become more important in the years to come. It is stressful though. You know? Yeah, true that chasing money is no good. You're right. Like, I mean, you want to go for money, right? I mean, you're going to go for it, right? That's the whole point, because without it, then you're not going to be able to provide the things that you need in life. But again, like if you go and you pursue all this money and then you realize like, man, I made a bunch of money, but I'm still not quite there. You know what it is? I think I need to do? I need to earn more money. That's what I need to do. If I earn more money than I have right now, then that would make me happy. And so they drive real hard and they earn even more money. And it's like, man, that was a lot of fun earning all that money. Still not happy though. Now what? You know, it's just like, that's not the way it's supposed to work, right? You're supposed to work real hard, and then it's just like, man, I worked really hard. Now I'm going to enjoy the hard work that I did. Right? I'm going to go and I'm going to vacation. I'm going to enjoy some decent food. I'm going to enjoy my environment. I'm going to enjoy this, right? I'm not going to be like, man, I'm still not happy. If I'm still not happy, then it's not the work. It's not the money. It's not that. There's no point in pursuing any more of it. It's not going to make you any happier, right? So that's the whole point, is to figure out what it is that's, you know, that you need to be content with your life. And then pursuing money is just like, you know, the easy part after that. It's just like, you know, what it is you need to do. All right, I'm going to jet. I'm going to go home and get something to eat, make a few phone calls, maybe get some more people to do interviews with. Thanks for the stream. Cool to have convo and knowledge transfer. Yeah, you bet, Eric, man. I enjoy doing this with all you guys. And you know, I could do this all day, every day, you know, but then you guys would get like bored with it and then you wouldn't be here anymore. All right. Thanks for your time every time, my friend. Well, thank you, All Nighter. Thank you for being here. All right. Enjoy dinner. Well, thank you, John. Thank you, AS. Thank you. All right, guys. I guess I don't have anything else to say. Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know.